So we'll get you, Barbara, to read the first paragraph, and then we'll just, when it comes around to your turn after Carly, after me, then you'll go again. So until we get through them all.
Okay.
So if you'd like to go with the first one.
Okay. The purpose of the mastermind is to learn leadership, build teams, and create multiple sources of income together.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and exceed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during meetings.
We are collaborative. We listen without Did Coralie go? No.
No, it's you, Barbara.
Yeah, I did after you.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, we are collaborative. We listen without interruption, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during meetings.
We are real and authentic. This is a no BS zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and the high forces, one mind, one soul, one love.
Noble Goldman International is a conscious, aware, and engaged global community of abundance and freedom creators.
Our mission is to create 1 million millionaires who are free from the time for money paradigm. We focus on creating multiple streams of income through masterminding, team building, and the effective utilization of the internet-based platforms.
The mastermind becomes an opportunity for self-mastery, where the self-transcendent shift from the me to the we to the us occurs. Do you want me to keep reading?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. As congruence and engagement increases, the world's consciousness is then raised one meaningful and inspired relationship at a time.
Well done. Thank you for that. Just sets the framework for the meeting today. And I'll just get rid of that one again. Okay. So we'll just do a quick, I'll do a quick summary of what we covered last week, just as a reminder for everyone. So the preface was just introducing the concept of the Toltecs, that the Toltec civilization had a way of life that was distinguished by the ready accessibility of happiness and love. They talked about the Smoky Mirror then in the introduction, which was that there is a wall of fog between us and the sort of the reality. That we have the smoke is the dream, the human dream, the dream of humanity, and the mirror is you, the dreamer. So chapter 1 goes on to talk about domestication and how we are all, we're taught by those who have gone before us in how to dream the way that society dreams. So we're taught to comply, we're taught to follow the way things are done around here on this planet. And we didn't even choose our own name, but every single thing that we are taught that we accept becomes an agreement in our life. So we have many agreements. In a sense, we're domesticated like you would domesticate a pet. We are taught through reward and punishment, and we keep doing what others want us to do in order to get the reward. That then leads to a fear of being rejected, because the fear of not getting the reward means a fear of not being good enough. So we tend to become our own worst critics. We judge ourselves, we punish ourselves, and we have this inner judge and inner victim as well. So even if the book of law, the law of the way that society and the ruling of the planet works, even if that is wrong, it makes us feel safe because it's a framework that we feel safe under. And so therefore it takes us a certain amount of courage to challenge our own beliefs. We didn't actually necessarily choose all those beliefs, but in a sense we agreed to them. And that's why the book is called about the 4 agreements. So part of that then leads to blame and guilt and shame. And we are the only animals on the planet who pay for our mistakes thousands of times over, where we relive things in our minds and continue to beat ourselves up. Animals don't do that. They might make a mistake once and go, I was an idiot there, and they move on. We don't even know that they do that for sure, of course. They might not think that at all, but we certainly do. And so we search for something external, for truth, for justice, for beauty, but in fact, it's already within us. We just need to look within to find it. So this also can lead to us feeling like we need to be right and others therefore must be wrong. So we cannot also forgive ourselves for not being perfect. So it's something that we have to work on to overcome this inner judge, inner victim. And we struggle then to distinguish sometimes between reality and fantasy of what we can and can't do. And so we need to break free from these fear-based agreements. In conclusion, on chapter 1, it goes on to say that the 4 agreements, the new ones that we're going to form as we work through this book, will transform your life, and that you will create a new dream, a personal dream for you. So that was the first start. Then we wanted to, what we're going to discuss today, we'll take each chapter in turn. So the second chapter is about the first agreement, which is be impeccable with your word. Now it cites the Bible as a starting point, that the word is the thing that's created everything. We alone have the word. Other animals on the planet don't speak to each other like we do. He talks about the power of the word being used for good or for evil, and gave the example of Hitler in World War II, and how with the power of his words he was able to start a Second World War. He doesn't mention, but there are plenty of good examples in our history of where the word has been used for positive forces. People like Nelson Mandela or Lincoln or Martin Luther King, people who have made a difference to the world through the power of their words for the forces of good. He talks about the human mind being a fertile ground where seeds are continually being planted, and that impeccability itself means without sin. So sin is anything that you do which is against yourself, which feeds those monsters of judgment or self-blame, which is a form of self-rejection. So whenever we hear an opinion and we believe it, we adopt it as a belief, then we are making an agreement, and that then becomes part of our belief system. So he uses the example of a little girl who was told that she couldn't sing, or she was a terrible singer, and so she didn't sing again because she formed this belief that she was a bad singer. And we can all think of examples in our own childhood, and we'll talk about that in a moment, of things that we have formed a belief that has stuck with us through our life, and then we need courage to challenge that belief and to possibly shift our paradigm around it, and to start with to form a new belief and a new way of looking at things, so that frees us to move forwards. So bearing in mind that your opinion, your point of view is a result of your beliefs, and therefore it may not necessarily be true. So we can challenge things that we believe to be true about ourselves and change them. So in summary, he says that to be impeccable with your word will give you immunity from the negative words of others, and will enable you to feel good, happy, and at peace. And he sums it up as a form of white magic rather than black magic, which gossip is and negative words are believed to be black magic. So there you go. That's chapter 2. That was what I took from it. Would anyone like to add anything that they've taken from it, or that you feel that I might have missed, or how it's resonated for you? Nobody? Anything that leapt out for you from that chapter?
It's just so huge. And he also said like that if you only did this one, you know, everything would be heaps better in your life. I'm like, it's a really overwhelming one though, I find, because it's so against what we do, what I do all the time, every day, and what's in my brain and everything. It's, yeah, I find it really, really big.
So Coralie, do you catch yourself when you're doing it? Are you aware that you're doing it?
I'm getting more aware, but I also find it really hard not to. It's like, okay, I'm doing that, stop it. And then it doesn't take long and I start again.
Well, you've got a lifetime of conditioning to
Exactly. Exactly. And all the people around me that all, you know, we all have our agreements of how we are with each other. And that's how we are with each other. And it's much easier to talk about someone else and just like gossip than to come up with something else.
I found it very interesting that we have these beliefs that are given to us by our parents or our siblings, that when they tell us something that they believe to be true about us, that we accept it as children. We just blindly accept, well, if your parents tell you you're this, then that's what you are.
Mm.
So that becomes our identity.
Mm. Very much.
So that's a little daunting. I found when I first started reading books like this. Another one was The Seeds of Greatness by Dennis Waitley, and I became very aware as a parent when I was much younger. Now I'm a grandparent, but the words that we say to our children could have a very long-lasting effect. And it's so easy in a moment of anger or frustration to tell a child that they're stupid, or that they're a waste of space, or they've done something that they'll never, like, how many times you hear it said, oh, you'll never amount to anything. A teacher could say that to a child, and that can stick.
Yeah.
That's the damaging thing that can happen, is that throughout our life that can stick with us. And then it takes courage to challenge that belief. Julie, good morning. You've joined us.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I'm late. I was sitting waiting and then just got tied into something that was gone. Sitting waiting. You should never sit and wait.
Okay, well, we're talking about the power of the word, Julie. So here's one for you to consider. You're not late, because disorganized people are late. Busy people are just running behind schedule.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Except I wasn't really busy this morning, and even more lethal.
And you've blown it. You shot your own excuse in the foot there.
Yeah, I have. With the truth. It's wonderful, and I haven't listened to it either. I should have listened to it by now. I'll be very distracted on everything.
Right. You'll pick up on it as we go through. So we were just talking, and you have a teaching background as well, don't you, Julie?
Oh, I do. And I just heard what you said there, and you know, the words that you hear as a child are just so powerful. They get you right through to old age, you know. And we dealt with some of those yesterday with Kim, with some people. It was incredible.
Yeah, so as a teacher, you'd be aware of the power of words on children, and that we don't need to do it very often, especially as parents. We wouldn't want that, you know, it'd be a horrible thought to think, I've impacted on my child, that they're going to think badly of themselves in some way for the rest of their life. And yet that's how easily it can happen. But it can also happen for good. So for instance,
yes, well, you know, you can turn that round, and that actually happened to me because I had a lot of damaged children that have been told all sorts of things that they weren't, and to the point that they couldn't even find themselves or their own qualities. So we became very aware of the language and language patterns that we used, and we used a lot for healing, you know, and these kids really just kind of got over, you know, changed the language and healed themselves.
yeah, when I was just talking about another book that I read, The Seeds of Greatness by Dennis Waitley, and he talked about the importance of telling your children each night that they were special. And I don't mean, you know, special. I mean that they were a gift.
That's a polluted word.
Well, special had it wasn't had the connotation that it has perhaps today. And that's another thing to be aware of, is that language changes over time, and the words that we use can have different meanings to different people. So you might inadvertently give someone a compliment and they take it the wrong way and take it as a criticism.
Yes.
So our choice of
Very
word
true.
and our ability to communicate is so important.
Sure is.
So
Very important.
what about
And to come from a base of love.
so what about the self-rejection? Carly, have you got something that you want to add? Your hand's up.
I was just thinking, like, you know, like when your word means something different to someone else, it's back to the original childhood version of what your upbringing had you believe that word means, energetically, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And so before the word spoken, it's the internal word that is also the problem. And like Carly's saying, like, we get aware and then we catch ourselves before we speak, and then our internal word gets flipped before we speak the real truth that Julie spoke, so that we're fully in alignment with truth, with our soul word, like our authentic word, the word that actually means you love yourself, like Julie's talking about. And then Tony added about children who put the word in because they change it and it's back to unconditional love, because children speak from truth and speak from their heart and speak from passion, and they don't know what society call wrong and right. They speak from truth. It's only when we're told that our word is incorrect that we shrink it down and change it into the words of someone else. And then that does not serve us. And so our agreement is to ourself always first, our soul, and our heart. Like, the agreement's not outside of us.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Well said, Barbara.
Well, and you know what's interesting is that is it like Callie was saying, that the children are pure, and what's interesting too is that, like, I have an American English, and like, because I was born in America and raised in America, but I'm from New York, and speaking of, like, and I see words always as the power of words, you know, like words are really powerful, right? And the way you express it. But it's interesting because recently I had a fight with my girlfriend a couple weeks ago, because she's from Minnesota. She lives in Austria, but she's from Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota. Yeah, I think it's there, whatever. She's from the Midwest, and she said she was upset. And I said, well, you were anxious, you know, or whatever. If I'm anxious, then I'd be upset, because I'm not anxious. I was upset. And I said, well, for me, it's the same thing. And then when I looked it up, it showed the same thing. And we had an argument about that almost 3 weeks ago. We still haven't talked. And although I try to clear it up, and it's so funny, like, she's from the Midwest and I'm a New Yorker, but I'm from upstate New York, and New York City and upstate is different. And it's so interesting how words and languages and expressions that people see differently, and they get upset. And even from different countries, you know, like, you guys will probably say something different than me. I've always found with the English that they say things different than I do, and I'm like, I never heard of that before, even though I've been around a lot of English people. And like you were saying, like, sometimes, especially if you're in the wrong mood, you'll take a word wrong, you'll hear it wrong, and it'll trigger you. Or even you being the own worst enemy, because last night I was in a really good place, and then suddenly, I don't know, I was doing some sharing with Noble Goldman, and somehow I didn't feel like it was such a good night, or I don't know. And then I got tired, and then I got into a really bad mood, and I fell down like really deep. And nobody would believe it, because they always say, oh, but you've been in Noble Goldman so long and you were so good. But I fell really deep down, and I started battering myself. I was really upset, you know? And so we're our own worst enemies. And I guess that's probably, who knows where it came from childhood or whatever. But I wasn't a teacher, but I taught children English, like self-employed for many years. And I always taught them very positive. In Austria, I think they're really mean to the children. And when they came to my place, they loved learning English because I was really positive and happy and always like built them up to that you're doing really well and this and that. And it's so funny because I can do that so easily for somebody else. But then when it comes to myself, it's like, okay, let's give her a little bit of this and a little bit of that. She didn't do well here. And yeah, it's funny how it's easier to help somebody else and work with somebody else and love to work and help them. But then with myself at times go, oh, that wasn't so good and you did that wrong and blah, 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 and batter myself. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Barbara. There's a couple of things I'd like to pick on out of that. Well, one particular that stands out for me is when you tell yourself, I'm no good at this, or I'm great at helping other people, but I'm no good at helping myself. We have to be so careful about the words that we choose. Even in saying that, then you're reinforcing an agreement or a belief with yourself that you're no good at sorting out yourself. So what if you challenged that and said, actually, I'm very good at analyzing my own words, my own agreements with myself, and I'm very good at turning things around. It's something as simple as how we choose to look at something and how we speak to ourselves in our own mind. The power of self-talk is incredibly important. So it starts with us. It starts with looking internally and analyzing yourself and so being the observer of your own thoughts and your own inner dialogue. And by
doing it immediately, Tony.
Sorry, Julie.
I think doing it immediately, you know, because you can actually hear the words in your mind and you think, whoa, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, that's happening to me at the moment. I can hear it and I think, oh, okay, we're going to do that right now. We're going to change that, you know, and it's amazing the difference. It just disappears, you know, it disappears. So it is powerful to do that straight away as soon as you recognize it. It's when it pops in when you don't recognize it. So hopefully you've got people around that can remind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why
we're a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. Barbara, go on.
Yep.
And that's why it's always good to come on these masterminds, because sometimes when you feel like your fuel went down, you come on again and then you get nice reminders like, oh yeah, you know, I mean, I did do a releasing with a friend of mine today, and he was telling me like he's really good at the method that we do. And I said, you know what I love about doing it with you is that you bring it into a visualization. Most of the time with most of the people that do our method, they usually stick with kind of the negative going into positive or negative. And I said, you're the only one that I love so much that takes it into a beautiful magical visualization, turning it around, the negative into a positive. And he helped me a lot today during the day. I'm glad he jumped on with me because I really like him a lot. And that helped me a lot. But that's why I'll also jump on the masterminds, because it's great to be around you guys and listen to you guys and then get that reminder again. Come on, you can really do it, you know, because, you know, when I'm fixing something, let's say that I'm not good at, and I go, wait a minute, I can do it, I'm good at it, then it starts to work, things that I'm not good at, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And sometimes I hear myself saying to somebody, okay, but you can do it, you know? And I was on a mastermind with 2 of my leaders yesterday, and I was helping one person, one of my leaders helping one of theirs, just because I felt like I should do it. And he does a really great representation of how to use Noble Goldman and what it's about and everything. If you guys ever need it, it's really good. Like he shows everything step by step by step by step. It's on his page. Yeah. It's Ron Reese, and it's just great because if you ever need it for your new members.
Ron. Ron's
I love
wonderful.
Ron. He's my pay it forward from one of my old leaders. And he's so good. And he reminded me of things that I forgot because I haven't been around in a while. But so I was helping one of his people, and, you know, all bright and happy. And suddenly I went, and not because of them. It was a couple hours later. Like I said, I was sharing, and then I thought, oh, I wasn't so successful today. And I thought, oh, you know, and I got down on myself. That's why you end up with everybody again and everything, you know, to get with the right people, you know.
Well, absolutely, Barbara. And here's a visual thing for you to remember. And I can't remember where I got this from. I don't know. I'm trying to I've been trying to think where I got it from. It was either maybe Wayne Dyer or Tony Robbins, but it was to think, if you like a visualization. Do you remember the old VCRs, the video recorders? And, well, even today on modern TVs and so on, you've got the facility of rewinding. If you're watching Netflix or something and you've missed a bit, what did he say there? You can rewind it to what was said before. So in your own mind, when you catch yourself, like Julie said, do it straight away. When you catch yourself and the words come thundering out of your mouth, I'm no good at this, I can't do it, whatever it might be that's negative. Imagine that video recorder, you could just pull out the remote control, go zip, rewind. Let's change how I just worded that. Let's go. I didn't used to be able to do this, but I'm getting better at it. And the more I practice, the more I'm going to overcome this. So just having that visual thing of, I always just pull that one out of my pocket, is the remote control to just go, rewind, caught myself there. What the hell are you thinking, saying something as stupid as that yourself?
The back button. The back button.
Yeah. And Tony Robbins.
You know what that reminds?
Tony Robbins said,
Sorry,
ask
you know what that?
yourself, is what I just
You know what
said
that reminds?
empowering or disempowering?
Yeah.
Sorry, Barbara. Do you want to say something?
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to step over you. You know, that reminds me of when you say that there's a reset button or you know, a delete on the computer, or there's people who've done like a reset button, and you're reminding me of that. I can't remember who it is, but they do reset, you know.
Carly, did you want to speak again? You've got your hand up.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Just because I'm trying to send you a message, actually. Just that the words have a shrinking effect or an expansion effect. So it's pretty simple. So, I mean, it's as basic as that. It's a bit like making a decision, choosing the words you want, already resolves or starts to flip it, then feeling it. Like Barbara said, she saw vision. Well, that helps her feel it as well as see it, as hear it. Auto suggestion makes you hear it, see it, feel it. You choose to go in and feel it. Like, awareness definitely is the major key, because without awareness, how are you going to know what you're thinking if you've done it for 20 years and don't even realize? Yes, someone else witnesses you and says, you always say that, you realize. So yes, they're helping you. Yes, we could then go into, oh, they weren't very nice. We're judging the person judging you, or go into, hang on, I am always doing that. Let me set the alarm clock on the hour every hour for the next 5 hours and see what my mind's doing, what it's thinking. And then you look back over that hour and go, okay, I was thinking it here, and because you'll get more aware because you're close to the timeline of it. But yeah, just a suggestion. And so, yes, thinking is that important. Like, words are that important around what you're thinking and what you're speaking, because it shrinks. That's why you feel tired later, or you feel exhausted, or, you know, it's a shrinking. And so all you're doing is expanding. You're expanding your consciousness around it. You're choosing what it's going to be instead. And in that, just that moment of choice, you're already expanding. Expanding is where we receive everything we want.
Very good. Can I just add something to that, actually, is that as you become more self-aware, as we do the work on ourselves to make this new agreement, to be impeccable with our word, one of the things to watch out for is triggers. So when somebody says something to you and you feel yourself reacting because of the emotion that's attached to that word, and I'll give an example. I said the case that he uses in the story there of the young girl who's told she can't sing, and if she starts to sing one day and someone says, "Oh, you're a terrible singer," or you know they allude to that initial belief that was formed back when she was a child, she may react to that. If someone's told you that you're stupid when you were a child, and then later on an adult or a boss or somebody in the workplace says, "Oh, you're stupid," that may inadvertently, they don't know that they're doing this to you, but that may trigger you to go right back to that moment in the playground when you were told you were stupid, And so you have an emotional reaction to that, or maybe not externally, maybe you have the emotional reaction within yourself and you go, oh, well, that's another person that said I'm stupid, so it must be true. So when we are aware, I ask myself, what was it about that situation that got me worked up? What button did somebody press in me that caused me to react rather than in a calm, easygoing way to be responsive, but to react aggressively or angrily, or to be sad or frustrated? What was it in me that's triggered that? So that's a good thing to be aware of, is the power of the word and how it can trigger you. I've got Carly and Barbara with hands up. I'm not sure who was first. I think maybe Carly just might have nudged it.
I think Barbara was, but can I just add to that? Because I had the same situation yesterday. Like I had a trigger and I knew it was, but I still sent the person a message to check if it was like a confirmation, because the person I send it to, I trust. Like I know that person knows, like I know who they are. So I sent them a message to see if I was imagining or in my wound. And then they sent back their little thing, and I went, thank you, I was just checking. And then I know it's from my wound, but I was still checking because I have had that wound since I was 10 years old, where I was bullied. And so in a way I was standing up for myself rather than never even checking, just taking it in and go, that person's not very nice to me. I just, never speak up. So that was my way of speaking up. But I did it in a kind, courageous manner, because I just wanted to make sure there's nothing between us.
Yeah.
Only unconditional love.
So
So I was clearing the conflict, if there was one, by checking. And then I was bringing it back to myself to clear the conflict in me from my wound, so that my words and thoughts are in congruence with why I'm really here.
Yes, checking back with yourself and checking back with another person. That, for instance, when you said this, I felt that. Did I, like, what you said was this, but what I heard was that? Did I misinterpret that? So you can check with people very often, and they may not have meant how you took it at all. They may have meant something completely different. But then you've gone off and told yourself a story as a result of what you've heard, what you think you've heard, and you then carry on that battle within yourself. Well, what if they're right? What if are they thinking I'm like this? And you're having this inner dialogue that can drive yourself nuts, trying to figure out, and they may not have meant that at all. So checking back is so important. Barbara, did you want to add something?
Kelly, you still wanted to add something, didn't you?
It's just because of that, you've left the building, as in you've left your body when you follow that rabbit hole. So all we're doing is getting aware and coming back into the moment of where you're at and really checking in. And that takes courage. This is all a courageous journey, no matter how you want to look at it. So everything takes self-trust, self-courage, self-acceptance, self-love. And all we're doing is building the muscles of those qualities internally, that we no longer doubt anything. And when we do that, we're fully aligned with the expression of our soul presence, God, whatever you want to call it, walking the earth, speaking the words that really resonate.
Thanks, Carly. Barbara?
Could
Yeah.
I just come and, oh, it's Barbara. Sorry, go Barbara.
Barbara had a hand raised
Oh, sorry.
before. We'll come back to you in a second, Julie.
Yeah.
I have so many things to say to that. I want to start off, Tony, with what you said when you said the singing. That triggered me right away because my mother used to be an amazing singer. She sang Viennese songs, and she was born and raised in Vienna, and she was on the radio, and she was an amazing singer. I mean, the young people used to love to listen to my mother and give her flowers and everything. Like, she was just amazing. And I learned singing as a kid, but because my mother always said to me, you can't sing. I've said all my life I can't sing. And so, oh, you're welcome, Callie. So, all my life I've said I can't sing. So, guess what? I can't sing. And it's so, it's a shame because I think singing is such a beautiful art. And, and I used to love listening to my mom, but because she drilled that into me, I feel like I can't sing. And my other brother, who's really good at playing and I think singing, he's just amazing. And both my other brother and I love to listen to him, yeah, when he plays. And he doesn't have the confidence enough. He doesn't have enough confidence, but he's really good. But I wanted to say something else, but I think I forgot because that's something that you said, Kelly, that the one I wanted to jump in on and now I forgot. So maybe it'll come to me again because I had so many things I wanted to say. But anyway, go ahead, Julie.
Well, I've just listening to Carly too, and I think in this world of giving messages, for sending messages or writing them, it can so easily be misinterpreted through the filter with which we read, at the time with our mood filter. So we can really, really misinterpret what's spoken, or, it becomes really easy to do that with an email, even a typo can make the difference that you don't see. But just listening to Carly there and saying, yeah, when that insecurity comes in, do you think, is it what this, because I had an episode yesterday with a chap that's supposed to be helping me with crypto or something, well, he thought he was. And the language he was using, I was just nearly going nuts with it. It was so power and control, and I told you what to do. I told you what to do. You didn't. He was supposed to give me some options. He told me what to do. So I was getting just more and more furious because, in the past I have been done over many times. Well, not many times, but a few sneaky behavior and controlling behavior. So it's really, really important to ask, is that my insecurity from the past? Is that coming in and I'm really, I've got up because to be assertive back because I don't want to be walked all over, or is it just, this is so important? And I had to really grapple with that and just go back into my heart and say, well, whatever it is, this isn't the way to react to it. You needed to come from love anyway. And if he was doing this sort of thing, then it's a need in him or something that he doesn't realize he's up to, and wondered how I could sort of help that as well as help myself at the same time. So, going into that heart has worked for me in several occasions over the last couple of days where I could have gone down the rabbit hole very, very quickly. And I didn't, I didn't. I just came back up and thought, right, this is not the situation. And if you're not sure altogether, then just leave it because it will be resolved anyway, as long as you stay in a place, I think. No, I know. If you stay in a place of love for yourself and humanity at whole, it will resolve. It's probably already resolved. So that was my little bit. Sorry.
Yes, that's a great point that you've raised there, Julie, is to check back with your mood filter. Are you,
yes.
What mood are you filtering this through? But also to be aware of the other person. What mood might they be filtering it through? Or to be kind to go, what's going on in their life? And that actually leads us on to the second chapter, to the next agreement very, very nicely, which is to don't take anything personally. So we carry on with this story that we've invented around how we've interpreted what we think we've heard and what we think they mean by what we've heard, and then we come up with this whole story. But that's another question to check back on when we're going into the next agreement is, am I taking this personally And am I right to be taking this personally? Well, probably not. It's probably about them rather than about me. Or it might be, did I miscommunicate? Did I send a text message and could somebody have read what I wrote? I know what I meant to say. How could they have received it possibly differently that might have triggered this reaction that I'm getting? So yes, you're absolutely right. In our modern day situation, we have to be careful with things like text messages and emails. And a good tip there from Carly in the chat box there was to wait before you send it, perhaps rewrite it and go, hang on, did I just write that in a mood of anger? Perhaps I should just reflect on that a moment, or go and have a cup of tea or something and come back to it before I send it and consider, is that going to come across the way I intended it to? Or is it going to trigger some kind of reaction that I might not really want in the other person? Now, I've got multiple hands raised going on here. It's all, everyone's wanting to speak, so I'm not sure who's next. So
No, mine's still up, so it should be down now.
So you're complete there, Julie, what you said. Thank you for that. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I'm still a work in progress.
We're not complete with what you were saying on that point, but yes, we're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
I was just going to say
you're going to say before, or is it something new? Carly, go on. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say we definitely are a work in progress because it only happened to me yesterday. So hello, Julie. I am not omnipresent yet. I'm just saying. And
You're on the way.
What I love is you were aware, like I was yesterday. Like you got aware. I mean, it might have taken you a little bit of time in the process of being aware while the other person was doing their thing. But you were fully aware, and then you took your power back, we'll say, by flipping it back into like questioning it, checking in, and then in all of that, you took your power back by changing the words around it and accepting whatever that was. And that created expansion so that you then could raise above that.
Actually, Carly, it was so interesting to see because I took some of the trigger words he had written to me, and I said, you said this, and I'm saying to you that I might have seemed to agree, but I wanted the options, and I changed it around, and then immediately he came back. He saw it, he saw how his language had, I said, I didn't want to be told what to do. I wanted to observe the options and decide. So
yeah.
it was really interesting.
What I love about that is everything is intention, but when you get aware of what you're intending and flip it back into what you really want, which is still in decision and intention, and create it instantly. That's how powerful we all are. It creates instantly.
Yes, I suppose it does. Yeah, you're one step further than me. I'm still sort of surprised by the actions, but it's getting better, isn't it? You're becoming more and more aware daily, I feel.
And so it's not a race to be perfect right now. We've all got a little win. Like mine happened yesterday. That's why you can't judge anything or anyone, even yourself, because we're all got a layer of something. Until we are God standing here in a body or sitting here in a body, like we're not perfect. We don't have to be. No. We're just getting aware and expand. Aware. Expand.
We don't like that word, perfection.
Well, perfection's nothing wrong with that.
Remember,
because we're just aware.
Forgive ourselves for not being perfect, as well as a key point that's in this chapter. Just
and what is
aware
perfect?
of time that we're running out of time. I just wanted to move a little bit more into the next agreement, which is don't take anything personally. Barbara, was there something that you were waiting to add, or you put your hand down again? Or
oh, I was just gonna because you were talking about before. I remember what I was gonna say, and you were saying, like when you ask somebody, "Did I hear?" Like I do that often too. Like, did I hear you correctly, or did I understand you? And a while back, I think I'm a pretty good communicator. That's one thing that I think I'm really strong at, and I try. I try to always say, did I hear you correctly? And some people get mad at that. Like once my brother really lashed out at me because he felt like I was like a parakeet, like just repeating back what he said, but I wanted to understand it. And then my biofeedback lady, just a couple weeks, I guess it was like 2 months ago, I wrote her back and I said, look, because we had like an argument, and she still never understood what I meant. And I tried to like, I'm pretty good at like expressing, did I understand you correctly? And da da da. And it still went in a feud. Like, I don't think she ever really read what I said and heard it wrong. It was anyway only writing, but I thought I was pretty good at writing because usually I'm pretty good and I usually always pull things back to myself, or I feel this way, I felt this way. And I guess she had gotten mad at me at that time, But then I also wanted to say the hardest school, the hard knock school, my enlightened master Rampto always used to say, is working on yourself. He said that's the hardest job you'll ever have. And it's like, and you guys were reminding me about what would love do? What would love do? Julie, you reminded me that of the heart space and things, turning it around. Like, what would love do? Or like even Kali, we were on the other day, and like, from the heart and things like that, So yeah. Anyway, I'm stopping.
Okay, Barbara. So I just was reminded from everything that everyone's just been saying of a great friend of all of ours, Russ Devan, talks about when you jump to a position, when you adopt a position, then that creates an opposition. So when we think that we've heard X, but the other person intended Y, and we're jumping along this story of that we think they've said X, or we've taken it as X, but really they meant Y. We then, tying this in with this next agreement, is we create a movie in which we're right and they're wrong. And so being aware that we may have misinterpreted and being open to challenging or to rewinding and going, did something trigger me there to react this way? Or did I hear something based on how I'm filtering it through my mood? All these things that we've just been talking about all comes back to the power of the word, the power of communication. So it starts with ourselves, with our own communication with ourselves, and then with how we're communicating with others. So going on to this next agreement where he's talking about it's your movie, and that nothing other people do is because of you, it's because of themselves. So that if we're creating these stories in our mind, that other person is also creating their own stories. So is it that one's right and one's wrong, or is it that we're both looking at it from a different angle? So when you try to ask yourself, how might that other person be looking at this? That immediately starts a softening process where we can, as Carly put it brilliantly, to expand. We can expand the communication connection between us if we can clarify. When you use a word like love, I bet if I asked every single one of us on the call, what does love mean to you? We'll all come up with a different interpretation of it. And that's one word. But we assume that what we think that word means to us in filtering it through our experience of life, that they think it's the same, that it has the same meaning to them. But even that one word can have multiple different meanings. And I just have to take a note here that I love how the camera froze on Stan bursting out in a fit of laughter a few minutes ago. And so it froze with you laughing for quite some time while other people were speaking. I thought that was great. Stan, did you have anything you wanted to add? You've been fairly quiet in the call today.
No, I think most people covered most of it, sort of thing. I think the hardest thing would be not taking it personally, and when someone says something, and he even says when someone insults you, don't take it personally, which is actually quite hard, because then generally you bring your ego into it, and then you're like, well, he said I was this, and now I'm upset, and so that's quite a hard thing not to do, is to take it personally.
What if it was easy, Stan?
Well, if it was easy, then we probably wouldn't have so many, especially self-defense sort of thing. Someone says something, someone takes it personally, we have a punch-up sort of thing, and it's not just, two people. It can be, global, like look at the pandemic at the moment, like everyone's blaming someone from China that I had nothing to do with the virus, but, because I'm from China, now you're picking on me. Now I'm taking it personally. Pardon me.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's quite a hard thing to do is not take it personally.
Well, the reason I'm flippantly challenging you on that, Stan, is what if that's just another agreement that we've made with ourselves that it's hard to not take things personally? What if it was actually easy to not take things personally? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but what if we actually adopt the philosophy and the new agreement with ourselves going forwards that I don't have to take things personally, and it's easy for me to not take things personally? Just putting it out there to consider, for you to go away and consider today. What if it was easy for you to not take things personally? Could that be a new agreement we could form with ourselves?
Definitely.
Barbara, you had your hand up again. Thanks, Stan.
I like that. Agree to disagree.
Yes, that's a good
I like
one.
that one. Sorry.
Very good.
I
Yes.
like that what you said. I think that would be something to think about, and next time I'm taking something personally, because something this week happened to me on Monday, and to look at it and say, okay, I'll approve of myself, because right away I disapproved of something that somebody said last week, and they mentioned it on a call recently, and I thought, no, it's definitely they're talking about me, and I was so stuck in my stomach with it. And I was like, oh, because that person saw me in a different light, but I just didn't agree with the way they looked at it and the way I looked at it. I said, I don't see that in that way, but okay. But anyway, then I felt that it was about me, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the best to at least give myself approval again, because that's what I'm going to need. But I wanted to say something. I wanted to say I always see communication is an art. And you mentioned something, Tony, which made me think I'm in a German speaking community, and I've lived here now, I think 21 years again. And sometimes my English gets all mixed up. Like I'll write something in English or German, and I speak 3 languages. And so sometimes like I'll look at my English or I'll look at my German, and I go, what did I write? That's horrible. Like nobody can understand it, I think many times. It's like I'll write in English or German and I'll go, I don't think I wrote that correctly, neither in English or neither in German. But then I send it, and when I read it again, I go, why didn't I look at that? That was wrong, because I would say it like this, but I wouldn't write it like that. And I think because I speak in a German-speaking country, like sometimes I'm listening to people who speak English, even though I've been always around a lot of people who speak English, I still don't have like that like I'll listen to people and they're so good at certain things, like when they're sharing or promoting this business or businesses, but I'm missing the words because I'm not living in my home country anymore since over 21 years. And so those pile of words don't come to me anymore. They just don't. I don't have that I don't want to be negative, but I don't have that array anymore because I'm in a German speaking country, So yeah, so it takes a little longer for me. And then I have to look up words, I go, oh yeah, that word. That's right, And I could say it like
Barbara,
that, but the words don't come.
Even when we speak the same language, sometimes the same word has, as I said before, love has a different meaning to each of us. One comical example of that was the sign that you see in a pub sometimes that says no thongs allowed. Now, thongs in Australia are those flip-flops that you wear on your feet, but in the UK, they're a type of underwear. So an English person looks at the sign and goes, what, you're saying I can't come into this pub with underwear on? So just that one word can be interpreted differently and have quite a different connotation for people. So even when you speak the same language, we're all speaking our own language based on our associations with the emotional attachment to those words. And that's why it's another a great point to always bear in mind that rewind button and go, hang on, the sign of human intelligence is the ability to hold 2 conflicting viewpoints in your mind at the same time. So what if they meant this by what they said, but on the other hand, what if they didn't mean that at all, and I'm just making up a story about that, and they actually were just saying that, So we can have those 2 different interpretations. Which one are you going to choose? the one that causes division and confrontation and conflict? Or are you going to go give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe just clarify, did I misinterpret what was said? Or like Julie said before, was there a mood in play there on either one of us? And could that have affected the communication? So the key agreement there, don't take things personally, but the underlying agreement is the first one, which was this, he says it's the most important agreement, is the word, be the power of the word, the power to create. So when we hear the word, we create our own story or our own movie of our life, every moment, with every thought, with every word. Do we want to create a good movie, or do we want to create a movie that's going to disempower us and cause us frustration and conflict? And are we gonna focus on the gossip and the black magic, or are we going to develop our own form of white magic? Carly.
I was just going to type it, but yeah, it comes back to knowing what the word means for you. So there's another level of awareness, what that word feels for you. Like, what is the benefit of that word? What is behind the feel? Like, knowing the feeling of the word for you is an internal job. It's not a mindset. I keep touching my head, but mindset, internal job. And then knowing that what that means for you, like loving and accepting yourself in the knowing, proving of yourself in the knowing. So that even when you speak it, you're already intending that you own that by knowing it, feeling it, loving it. And then there's no hit on it when you share it, which is what I'm practicing with Barbara and our connection with people to send out our messages. I'm actually trying to practice behind that. So there's no hit on that. So it doesn't matter actually what I write in my word. Because I maintain my expansion.
Another thing you can do, Carly, is to get somebody else to read it and just check, an independent person to look at it and go, what do you think that I'm trying to say here? Or what do you get from this thing that this email or this text message that I'm about to send before I hit the send button?
Yes, perfect.
Very good. So as we know, this call's all been about me. Not at all, of course, I'm just joking. So are we taking it as everything's about me? This is what this don't take everything personally is about. Is this conversation all about me? Is it about how I'm feeling? Is it about my mood? No, it's about us all interacting together and figuring things out and communicating effectively. So he says in this chapter, don't eat people's emotional garbage or it becomes yours. So always bearing in mind, to form a new agreement, at least we've got 2 agreements to work on this week. Be impeccable with your word and don't take anything personally. Very powerful agreements. Well, I'm just conscious that we're at time. Has anyone got any last thoughts on this?
I
Is
do.
is that agreements 1 and 2, Tony? Just 2.
Yes, that's the first 2 of the 4 agreements. Next week, we'll come to the next 2 agreements.
Oh, okay.
And there'll be another week after that because there's a summary chapter and so on. So we'll have a chance to review the whole situation and also to report back on how you're applying and you're noticing these new agreements with yourself moving forwards. So it'll be good for us each to give a bit of feedback on the next call as to practicing these 2 that we've been talking about today. Carly?
My hand must be still up. I just want to thank you, and I appreciate everyone on here and your wisdom. It's incredible how we're all growing into self-love, self-acceptance, so that we can communicate that in its purest form and support others to receive that, support others to feel the permission to do the same by the energy.
Very good. Barbara, your hand's still up. Did you want something?
Yeah, I know we're behind the hour. I just wanted to say, you can say, how do you say it? you could say the right things to the wrong person. You could say the wrong things to the right person, and whichever way you do it, like it could be wrong and it could fall on their ears great, or it could be right and fall on their ears wrong. You know what I mean? I don't know how to express it right now, but yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it depends on what the other person hears, you know? So.
Well, it's how a lot of fights start in pubs, you know. People think that they heard something, or they think this person's having a go at them, and they weren't at all, you know, and they take it the wrong way, and off you go. So, and like Stan said, you take that on a global level, it's how countries end up at war with each other. Is that sort of misinterpretation of what we think the other person meant. So Barbara's made a great point there about languages. I have some staff that work for me who English is not their first language, and I'm always having to stop and hit the rewind button and go, did they actually understand what I was trying to say to them there, or have they misinterpreted it, and you know, they heard something different? And so I'm more aware of it because I know that English is not their first language. Yet how many times when you're talking to someone where English is their first language, that you assume that they took the same interpretation of those words as what you meant by them. So always checking is so important. Carly, your hand's up again. Is this a new hand or is this the old hand?
That's the old hand. I just wanted to add, actually, now you've got me. Might as well add something. You know, like that intention, when we're aware, like Julie got aware in that moment with the crypto thing. And so, and I did yesterday. So when you're aware, then changing your, like still putting your words, but just what the intention energy is behind it. You know, are you reaching out to get clarification? Are you reaching out to complain to the person for judging you in the energy? Like, what is the energy behind it? Are you just clarifying like Barbara did with her friend, but then just checking in with what your energy intention is behind it? Because sometimes we think we're clarifying, but it turns out we're actually defending ourselves in our words, but the energy behind it is the key.
So just to summarize then today, thank you, Carly, for that, that through the word, you express your creative power. It is through the word that you manifest everything. So the word is not just a sound or a written symbol. The word is a force. It's the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby to create the events in your life. So think about what it is you want to create. What's the intention? Where are you? What's the place that you're coming from? Is it pure? Is it? Do you have good intention in what you're trying to achieve? And go and practice that this next week, of being impeccable with your word and of not taking anything personally. So thank you all so much for your contribution today. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week to discuss the third and fourth agreements. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.